Thank you, Chairman. Well, I am going to present a work we have developed in collaboration with the Spanish lift company, Orona. I belong to the University of Mondragon. Well, it is about the final goal of this project. This is the first step. Is actually to have tools to design in an optimal way the traction machine of a lift installation. And when I'm talking about an optimum machine, at least I'm thinking on 3 points. The first one should be, of course, energy efficiency. We have certain specifications. They must be satisfied, and from the point of view of consumption, it should be efficient, the machine. The second one, we saw in the previous presentation that the machine is a source of vibrations and noise. So from that point of view of comfort, it should be avoided as well. That annoying situation in a lift installation. And the third one, of course, cost. It should be as cheap as possible, the machine, from the point of view. So this is the final motivation, and we want to develop something like a procedure or some rules to design optimally a machine. Well, let us give a brief summary on vibrations caused by the machine. The spectra due to machines is very tonal. We have very manifest peaks that are multiples of the fundamental frequency. The fundamental frequency is the rotation frequency of the machine. I'm talking about permanent magnet synchronous machines multiplied by the number of poles, the number of pole pairs. So we usually have peaks at those particular frequencies, and well, as we saw in the previous presentation as well, there could be resonance problems in the installation, in the machine itself, and in the whole installation as well. So they must be avoided. And whenever a machine designer is going, well, it has got, let us suppose, certain specifications for a lift installation. The load to be moved, 2-to-1 configuration. I'm going to design a machine. And probably he has different ideas in his mind. I mean, the length of the stator, perhaps, or any other parameters. Something. That it is. Remove the problem. So probably he has different ideas concerning the topology of the machine, number of poles, lengths, whatever. So he would appreciate the tools to calculate the vibroacoustic performance of those proposals in order to decide which of them will be the best one before any prototype is built. So this is the final goal. So in the first step, I am going to present today, we are going to talk on procedures to calculate the vibroacoustic performance of a machine. And I'm going to show some results. Well, first, what about the vibration and noise related to a machine? We have vibration due to electromagnetic reasons. There are electromagnetic forces at the air gap that cause the machine to vibrate. And there is also vibration due to mechanical reasons, bearings, misalignment of the shaft. We could say that for slow and common lift installations, 1 meter per second, 1.5 meters per second, and in the band of frequencies we are interested in, that is, in terms of comfort, that is below, for sure, below 1,000 hertz. The main reason of vibration is this one due to electromagnetic forces. So this is the one we are going to calculate. We are going to calculate by different models the vibroacoustic response due to electromagnetic forces. If you go to the literature, the procedure, the overall procedure consists of 3 steps. You have first an electromagnetic model of the machine to calculate those electromagnetic forces at the air gap, the first step. The second one would be developing a structural model of the machine with all the components, stator, windings, ends, rotor, shaft. it must be updated according to experimental measurements. And then the third step would be an acoustical model to calculate the power, the acoustic power due to that vibration caused by the electromagnetic forces. I'm going to talk on these three steps with a little detail. So, regarding the electromagnetic, the first step, the electromagnetic model, we have developed either finite element models and analytical ones. Most of them, the axial direction is neglected. I mean, they are two-dimensional models where we suppose that in the axial direction, we assume that in the axial direction everything is the same. And we calculate by the physics that is behind, implementing them, well, it could be implemented, the formula in MATLAB perhaps, and then as well with finite element commercial software, in our case FLAX, we calculate this electromagnetic field and consequently the electromagnetic forces at the A gap. And we have obtained a reasonable good agreement between them. We have in that picture, in blue and in color, a comparison of the machine without load and with a nominal load. And well, there are differences as well, but we are satisfied enough with the result. So we consider, of course, the analytical model is always much faster, and from that point of view, it is more handy. Regarding the structural model, well, there are several components, and well, we developed the model. We should say that concerning the stator, well, the stator is composed of a pack of laminates, and so this is why some of the properties have a different performance in the different directions of space. So it has an orthotopic performance. Concerning, for instance, stiffness is much lower in the axial direction than in the radial one. And well, there is damping as well between the friction, between the laminates, because of that friction. Well, we have developed the model and we have assigned values to the properties, initially based on the values usually given in the literature, and then we have performed extensive modal analysis to see whether our natural frequencies, calculating natural frequencies and mode shapes, coincide, or to which extent they coincide with the results, experimental results we obtained. And I'm going to show you some results, some pictures. For instance, you can see there the assembly of the stator and the windings, and the three figures at the top of those ones experimentally obtained. We have put accelerometers around 60 locations, and we have identified clearly some of the natural modes of the machine. You can see under them, you can see those modes calculated with the finite element model. You see that, well, the difference concerning the first mode and the third mode, and those are called radial modes because if you cut in the axial direction, you always obtain the same shape. It doesn't depend on the axial direction. And we have a higher difference in that one with an axial deformation. It is always the same. But the question is, in order to update my model, are all the frequencies, all the natural frequencies and mode shape, have all of them the same importance? And the answer is not. Because we have gone to the company that manufactures the machine, we have taken 5 samples of the same machine, and we have seen whether there is any variation. Whenever we make a model analysis, we have seen whether there is any variation concerning network frequencies. And we have seen that for those particular modes where we have an axial deformation, the standard deviation of the natural frequency could be up to 6%. And this is because of the clamping pressure that is applied at the moment of manufacturing it. It is never the same. So actually, whenever we want to update our model, we look more to the radial modes than the others. And we have done this with all the components of the machine, and at the final step with the whole machine. That is more complex and more difficult to identify all the modes. you can see here the whole machine. And we have, well, it is more difficult, you know, because lots of the models are related to the shaft. And we are not able to put accelerometers inside the stator. We can only put accelerometers at the ends and in the pulley and the very difficult positions for usual accelerometers. So, well, we have succeeded in identifying some of the modes, not all of them. And, well, just to see some numbers, to see the differences between the calculated and the measured ones, you see that, well, the errors in some of the modes could be up to 17% and so on. So it is a difficult task. Of course, when we model the final machine, another point that is difficult to model is actually the bearings. How to model the junction between the shaft and the stator. So we usually put some springs in the axial and radial directions and so on. We assign some values, but it is not difficult. It is not easy actually to find the final solution. So there is uncertainty actually in our model. Okay, so at the final step, we have our electromagnetic model, we have the structural model, and so we have put the machine in operation, fed by a nominal tension without load, and we have made an operational measurement. We have put an accelerometer on the top of the machine in order to compare that acceleration measured with the one that our model is going to give. And we see the picture there, where we see in blue the measured vibration. It is the whole vibration, not only that due to the electromagnetic reasons, but also the mechanical one. So actually we are measuring all, of course. And then we have in green and in red, respectively, that calculated by the FEM model and by the analytical models. I will talk later on in the next slide a little bit on the analytical models. And you see that there are differences, of course. In our calculations, we only consider discrete frequencies, those multiples of the fundamental frequency. We are not doing a calculation, we are doing actually a point-by-point calculation, although you see there that they are continuous. So we should compare only those points with the experimental one. And you see that there are differences in magnitude, very manifest differences. Although we identify which the worst peaks of the answer are. Concerning the analytical models, the usual analytical models only take that part out of the air gap. That part that consists of the stator and the winding. So the usual approach is considering, well, I am going to neglect all axial modes, and so I am going to model it as a ring, a two-dimensional model, where you consider only radial modes with isotropic properties. Then another approach could be, well, I am going to consider a cylinder, and so I'm going to consider as well axial modes. One only cylinder, and I'm going to average properties concerning the windings and the stator. And another approach could be a double cylinder, one of them corresponding to the stator, another one corresponding to the windings, with some equivalent properties concerning stiffness, Poisson ratio, and so on. Isotropic, all of them. This is the first approach. We have done the calculations, and this is what we obtain. This is in red, the response given by the FEM model, and those points correspond to these analytical models I have commented. The magnitude for the analytical models is higher. Why? Because the model is stiffer. And it is stiffer because we have considered isotropic properties. And I said before that in the axial direction, the stiffness is much more small than in the radial direction. So actually, the true machine is not so stiff as it is the analytical model. Well, we did also the final step, an acoustic calculation, considering the vibration level of the outer surface. We went to LMS Virtual Lab. We use that software and calculate the acoustic power. There is also the possibility to develop analytical models where the parameter involved is what is called the radiation efficiency. That is the relationship between the acoustic power and the vibration level of the surface. In that case, it is usually a cylinder and so on. And well, because the machine is not so noisy in these conditions without load and so on, and because we didn't perform the measurements in an appropriate room, in an anechoic room, there was a lot of background noise that was high actually that some of the octave thirds that we have in the picture. I haven't put them because we should improve this comparison. But see at the same time those peaks. So finally, I'm going to go to the conclusions and the current research we are doing. Regarding the conclusions, well, we have developed some models, and from the point of view of accuracy in amplitude, they are not accurate. But from the point of view of deciding whether a given topology is better than another one and so on, it could be a very handy tool. From the point of view of sensitivity as well, I mean, which of the parameters of the machine does influence in this particular amplitude, it could be a very handy tool as well. But anyway, we must improve those tools, considering, for instance, orthotropic properties, adjusting the values on some properties properly, or modeling. And one important point, in the analytical models, we didn't include the shaft and the rotor, and particularly in a lift installation, it is a very important component because actually it transmits vibration to the pulley and from the pulley to the cabin. So, but actually in the literature, there are very few models considering, in analytical models, there are very few considering the dynamics of the rotor. We did with the finite element model, but we didn't with the analytical ones. And so this is what we are studying nowadays. Thank you very much, and if you have any question.